I'm Alexandra Kreis, and you're listening to Outer Travel in a Journey. Journeying now for 30 years into the life and practice of yoga, I have met many who have taken interesting turns, went past extraordinary bumps, and reached unexpected places. People with whom I shared conversations about everyday struggles, intimate realizations, larger questions, ideas, and dreams. So today, I'm passing on the mic to one of them so we could hear and celebrate the wisdom in people's differences and experiences. Welcome back to Outer Travel in a Journey. On my show today, I have Steffo, Shambo in Thailand. Hey.
Hello, Alexandra. Good to be here.
Thank you for coming and making the time difference work for the two of us. Steffo is a men's relationship coach using Tantric methods to either help people who are single or in relationship to have a deeper experience in their relationship or find maybe what we call true love in today's society, or soulmate, or whatever you prefer to say. So, Steffo, that is so beautiful to have a man on the show. Talking about this very sensitive subject that is out in the open in our new zeitgeist, and that I see that blossoming actually in this healing society where men come more and more together to form circles to find their identity. Let's talk a moment about that. Do you witness that as well? You know, this new kind of zeitgeisty men need to learn to talk about things. How do you experience this?
Right. Great question. And definitely there is more of a grassroots movement of men starting to also get interested in self-development. There is still a big gap and lag behind men and women. Women tend to be more prone to self-development, to work on the relationship, to want to go to therapy and those kind of things. Not like with everyone, of course, but still we have this explosion in the world of women's empowerment, right? And the men still kind of are lagging behind a little bit, but on a grassroots movement, we can see some changes happening. But I feel personally that it's not yet spread to the mainstream, you know, and that's what I want to do, to help spread it more on a global level than just these small grassroots movements here and there. But I think it's a very, very important thing to do. So men can step up and really become integrated and aware and whole. So men and women, the masculine, feminine, can meet in a place of healing and equality. And I think that's really what the planet is needing right now. And I feel this can really help to bring the world to a better place. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, it's a form of new communication, because I also seen ideas of bringing men back into their manhood by, you know, going out in the woods and chopping a tree in the middle of the night, you know, or sitting. I mean, we talked a little bit before we started this interview about these different routes of Tantra, where the scholars and the neo-tantrics kind of fall a little bit away from each other in trying to keep something true. And I know that in the scholar tantric version of the teacher I follow, he had to sit alone in the jungle for a night, and it can be quite scary. I mean, I couldn't do it, I think, or maybe I can, we'll see. But why do you, what is the difference in these movements where men are playing up to what we think men should do and be, to what you're doing, you know, or what is kind of coming from the grassroots up in new ways of working together as men amongst each other?
So what I find is that right now there is this kind of difference between those men who really take that time, like you said, to go into the cave or go into the woods and or sit and meditate or go into retreat and stuff, because really it's there when we can find our belonging or find our purpose or find a meaning or find something deeper than just our personality of being a husband, a dad, a son, or a worker, whatever it is, right? So I think that's important for both the scholar or the neo-tantric. All men should have some kind of practice of solitude. So I don't know if that's answering the question, but maybe you can rephrase that question.
Yeah, I can rephrase that question by asking you to describe a little bit what you do currently, maybe in your work with men. What do we have to envision, or the listener who hasn't Googled you yet, in what happens in your seminars or mentorship programs? What are you working with really when you work with men to improve their relationships or find their true love?
Yeah, so what I'm doing basically is working with transformation rather than information, to put it in just a simple term, because we know right now that the internet is full of information. All of us human beings that have an internet connection, either on our phone or our computer, have access to all the knowledge in the world that kings 50 years ago didn't have access to, or the library in Alexandria, whatever. It's like that we have access to all this knowledge and information, but still people are struggling. So the question is then, why is that? If we have all the knowledge, it's not a problem with knowledge. We are knowledgeable human beings here. So the issue is transformation, meaning how do you apply it in your life, and how do you experience this in your body, in your life, in your relationship? So that is what I am focusing on, instead of all these like books, YouTube videos, and online courses that gives you more information. We rather focus on an embodied experience of how can I, heal these past patterns or trauma and shadows or whatever they are. So you actually feel the shift, feel the change in your body, right? So that's the main difference. And that can look in many different ways. It can be that someone's relationship is falling apart because they have a people pleaser or a nice guy syndrome, or maybe they are emotionally unavailable. They're not able to be vulnerable, access their feminine side, right? Or maybe they haven't integrated between the masculine and feminine. Maybe they have daddy issues, a father wound there, and they've never had other men around them to kind of just hold that space, get that initiation from. So, and there can also be sexual dysfunction. They are not confident about themselves, and they are not confident with the opposite gender, and these dysfunctions are causing misery in this area of the life. Many times you don't notice this about these men. They're successful, they look just like a normal regular guy, but in the relationship, in the bedroom, in closed doors, that's where they struggle, and they usually do it alone, because it's not as accepted for men to ask for help, for support, because it seems like a weakness, or it seems like, oh, you can't do it yourself, right? So we still need to get over some stigma in order for men to be able to be as accepted in the personal development space as women.
Yeah, and it belongs to the field of, men don't want to feel don't want to cry in public. They don't want to speak, with loving words. It could mean that they look weak. And yeah, I totally relate to what you say. It feels like we still have a little bit to grow, to me, like looking at my own history with men and so on and so forth. something that is so set so deeply in our subconsciousness. So how we women react is sometimes also from a subconsciousness, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not because we want to treat men like that or we want to be like that. Well,
Yeah.
I can't speak for every woman, but but that's
Yeah.
what I say here in the field of healers and people who are working on self-development, as you say. So what led you to find this subject so important? I mean, what was the turning point for you to really
Right.
notice it is in this
Right.
way of looking at life?
Because I experienced this myself, right? So I had my own challenges and journey and suffering in these areas, so that led me to, go out in the world and seek answers and transform myself. And I was lucky enough to be able to find the right mentors, find the right coaches, find the right teachers to help me, to support me and guide me through this process, and becoming an integrated man and empowered and feeling confident again. So when I had experienced this, I just noticed that this is an amazing thing and it's changed my life forever. So I wanted to pass this on. Basically, I noticed that this is something very rare in the world, and that life-changing transformation that I had, not many other men around me had the same thing. So I wanted to offer this as a way of like passing it forward, and also realizing that, like we said before, this is so important in the world right now. So that's my belief, that my purpose is to help one man at a time to become integrated and whole again, so we can so I can make the world better, just like one man out of the time, because that's what I saw in myself, and that's what I see in my clients, and that's what I want to pass on to the world as well.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not hidden, on your website. So I was hoping that you could tell a little bit about that dark night of the soul, which I often bring to highlight in these podcast shows, to understand the simplest thing sometimes can turn us on, and we can't just think that a certain thing only needs to turn us on, like, sitting for 11 hours on a cushion and meditating might not do it. It might be something really, really real. So what was your, reality experience of the dark night of the soul?
I mean, I cannot pinpoint it to just one thing, because like it's we're talking about like a period of 10, 15, 20 years, right? And it's just layers of an onion that's being peeled, right? So my trauma comes from, not growing up with a mother, right, that was there for me, that could take care of me, that could love me. So there was this wound of the feminine, so to speak. So my dark night of the soul was kind of to go through the pain and the absence of feeling abandoned by the feminine, right? And then, because I hadn't healed that shadow, so to speak, I attracted those kind of situations, relationship, women into my life. So I experienced this pain again and again. And that was my dark night of the soul. I was like, I couldn't handle it. I didn't have any tools. I didn't know what to do. I was just overwhelmed by these emotions and just really depressed, and going through all that, which was very, very difficult, also turned on to my strength and my intuition of like, I have to search for meaning. I have to search for answers, right? So that small voice inside of me like brought me out of it, out of there, and went on this quest to kind of find answers.
So it's these patterns. I know when we talk about the dark night of the soul, it seems like the key lock, but it's not, as you say, it's like this. We're finding that we have to go through the hero's journey or heroine's journey as women, again and again, to discover patterns, and these patterns show up like this or that. And when you're then called into a certain work, it might be something that has been lingering and waiting there for you. How did you know you were carved out for this work? I mean, what did you do before, and what made you be a coach or mentor or whatever, coach you call yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, I never knew, I never thought I'm going to do what I'm doing. And this one thing led to another, starting to heal these things, starting to reconcile my past and my shadow and all that, just brought forth this other purpose into my life, right? So it didn't just like come like that. And one night I had this idea that this is what I wanted to do. I was living it, right? That was my life, right? So it was just easy for me to kind of share that with people around me and then share it with the world. So it's kind of like a step-by-step process, like first I experienced it myself, then I became a yoga teacher, then I became a workshop facilitator, and then, like one thing led to another. So there was not like doing a men's mentorship program. That was not like the first thing. It was just like a natural succession of these things, and just seeing what kind of gaps can I fill in the world that is really needed right now.
And how would you describe the tantric path you're on? Because I mean, we're talking about yoga, and there's obviously hatha yoga, which everybody does now in the gym and wherever, in yoga schools. I mean, if I come a little bit from a scholar background as much as from a practical, but I know that there is a right-hand path and a left-hand path, and the left-hand path is obviously the one that's connected to Tantra, and the other one is to what we generally would call the Hatha Yoga. So how did you move from yoga the way you did it before into experiencing Tantra?
For me, they were always interconnected. So I have always, from the get-go, like incorporated them and studied them at the same time. So for me, I don't find these discrepancies between the two. I can feel that they both have value, and you can use both. As long as you're clear on what you're doing and communicate what you're doing. So you not pick up like a technique from 100 years ago, or it's just invented by Bikram or whatever, like recently, and say this is 2000 years ago from the scripts of Tantra. Like, don't lie, just be truthful about what you're doing. But as long as you're truthful about that, and just like this is where it's coming from, and these are the benefits that I'm seeing, I think that they combined work are really, really good. They're really powerful. So you have techniques from classical Tantra, which would be like meditation, mudras, visualization, working with energy, right? Also Hatha Yoga, and then more the left hand, the Neo Tantra would be more sexual cultivation and sexual enhancement and embodiment and psychology work and things like that.
And now that you named it, like we're talking about real practices that men can study around, like how they enhance sexual capacities of pleasure, for example, right? So where do you do your workshops? Is the first question I would ask, or how do you mentor? Is this like something on site, like people need to come to you to Thailand? No.
It's all online, because what I notice is that people cannot usually travel for 9 weeks. They're busy. They're a father. They have a business. They're have a wife that needs their attendance. Like, they have a life. It's hard for people to just take 2-3 months and just go somewhere and just pause their whole reality. So I do everything online, and I've I've noticed that that works even better, because then everyone can join from whatever they are, and we bring together the whole world into this online meeting space, right? And it's really, really beautiful. And I meet some of these guys afterwards, and you know what? It's almost like we have known each other for a long time, because even like we speak now, Alexandra, it's like, yeah, you are in Europe and I'm here in Thailand, but still we make some connection. We can see each other eyes. We can get a sense, a little bit of energy exchanges as well of how the other person is. So this actually works. It's really powerful to have this online format. And I think most people are aware of that now after COVID. Many things went online, right? So right now, do everything as an online mentorship, and it's really, really amazing.
Yeah, it is so helpful. And still, as you say, people are longing for connection. And I think we are all longing to step a little bit out of this Zoom reality. And I know what you're saying. I was very astonished when I had my first long distance relationship, and Zoom wasn't there, and we did it through Skype, and what can be transmitted once you're really connected on a heart level. But still, we're looking for that connection with other people. I wanted to add that to what you say. I know it works, and if you want to receive teaching you can't get in your own city, village, wherever you are, country, then of course it's nice to have people like Steffo and myself. I do it also online, a lot of my work is now online to receive that. And so how do you see this quote that a scholar usually kind of quotes to me, my teacher, is about, everything happens through transmission, and he means not only that we do this energy exchange that we have here, where we feel really connected because we're open about what we're talking, but where you also know that the touch needs to be there. Did you ever receive that kind of transmission? And do you think you can, that would be a next level up for your own work, or what is your viewpoint on that?
Yeah. So since yes, I have received transmissions from my teachers, and but I also realized that it can happen online. So since I am not very heavily focused on like classical transmission, I don't need to have that touch there. Like for me, what's most important for my clients is not the format, it is the result and outcome. If by the end of my program they save their relationship from a divorce, then they're happy. They don't care if it was online, if it was in person, if it was on Mars, it doesn't matter as long as they save their marriage, right? So there is a certain level of transmission in the way of structuring live calls and recorded exercises. There is some level of transmission, but not the full Shaktipat, right? And I do have follow-up programs that now are in the making. So people who have graduated, they can come and get the full experience. But I also know that one of my teachers, Sadhguru, I don't know if you're familiar, but he's doing transmissions now online since COVID happened. So one of his signature programs usually only could be done in person for this very reason of the touch. Now it's actually online as well. So even a real living tantric master is now doing it online. So I think something is changing, and maybe there's some effects there as well. Maybe it can travel. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, and maybe it's also something that need to be demystified or broken into the new reality. After all, we are facing new realities, as I like to call them. It's like money is disappearing, crypto currency is coming up, a new found exchange of empowering the population, coming back to empowering not only, where you start and I start. It's so nice to help one person to transform in the hope that they will give that forward, and then it becomes very quickly a network of people that heal. And at the same time, we need also to see that people need to take that up again, that how would you call it, not only the power but also the effort of taking everything in life as a downside and upside, you know, that we are taking responsibility. That's what I wanted to say for that. And so, yes, and maybe this is the new generation of healers and teachers that are coming, trying to find new ways of spreading what wants to be spread, you know, the force of Shakti, of love, of, you know, awareness, whatever comes.
Yeah, it's this open source, right? We have open source, like Bitcoin is this like open source monetary system, right? But then also like Tantra used to be secret and passed down only from disciple, from guru to disciple, right? And now it's kind of, it's open a bit more the secrecy, and it's not as esoteric. It wants to open up to the world, this knowledge, because you know, a lot of these masters feels it's time the world really needs it as well. So I feel, yes, we need to modernize, we need to kind of go along and, you know, not be stuck in all paradigms, whatever paradigms there are, you know, like in the world with man, woman, with, but also when it comes to spiritual practice and philosophy, I think we can learn from that, but also realize that some of these old paradigms were made thousands and thousands of years ago. It might not work in the modern day reality. So modernization, I think, is sometimes really, really good. Wim Hof, for example, is a really good way of modernizing Tibetan Tantra. So he's taking a classical tantric technique called Tumo, he modernized it, and boom, it goes worldwide and is super, super famous right now. And that is actually classical Tibetan Tantra that people are doing. So that's a good modernization. I love it. Why not? We need more of that.
Yeah, you're true. And I think that's it depends on who you taught with. I have not met him personally, but I was in one of those satsangs with Sadhguru, and when he does what he does, it's really amazing. He can touch so many hearts, and at this, and I think he is one of these gurus that stands in between, you know, the old and the new. And we'll see how we move forward as people who take on the responsibility to spread that kind of word, and also knowing that it comes, as you said before, you know, from a source that has proved itself over thousands of centuries, you know, hundreds of centuries, so to speak. Yeah, not thousands. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I feel like Sadhguru is a modern day saint that we're going to look back to in the history books of like, this is a huge person living on the planet Earth, you know, and it's kind of like the Mother Teresa of the modern day or something like that, you know, like I feel he's impacting so many people. I think it's 1 billion people right now that he has spread his yoga techniques to. And, you know, he is a tantric yogi, but he doesn't use that name because it's convoluted and it's misunderstood. But it's really, really cool. We have a tantric guru who is spreading this ancient knowledge to people in a very easy, simple way.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went quite through a few subjects here. I didn't see that coming, but I appreciate your openness in where you come from and what you do and how you experience it. It's always refreshing, even like for somebody like me who's been studying for a long time on different paths and very kind of disciplinary, you know, who's cutting loose. And if you, maybe there is a lot of people out there and students that need to hear that too, you know, you can cut loose from the tight strings and in the wish to make someone's life better, and not just to teach the next best yogi or to discover the next great yogi, but we all need a little bit more care and loving and freedom in ourselves and healing, obviously. So I always like to ask at the end, is there something you want to pass on to the listener as an advice or as a gift or whatever you want to call it, or an
Mm.
invitation?
Yeah. I mean, we only have one life. Why not make the best out of it? Love, relationship is like one of the biggest things in our life, right? So uh, let's focus on that as well, because when we fix our relationship within our marriage or within the boyfriend girlfriend or whatever, it doesn't, or boyfriend girlfriend, when we fix that small micro relationship, I think we also fix the macro on a global scale. So I think it's really important to also, invest time, energy, and into this area so we can live a life that is fulfilled and happy. Because most people on the deathbed, they say, one thing I regret the most is not to love more and spend more time, quality time with my loved ones, right? So
Yeah.
life is so short. So, go and do that. If you don't have a great love life right now, that's where I come in as well. You can go to tantricacademy.com. I have free trainings for men who are single, for men who are struggling their marriage, whatever it is. Go there and watch the training and see if it resonates with my methods, and
Yeah.
so that's what I have to offer, and that's the message I think is the most important from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. After all, that is like an exchange and creating life, when we have sexual encounters with our partners, and it's the other end of the stick of what we're facing. We can't get out of this alive, as they say.
100%.
So yeah, yeah, 100% true. And so make the most out of it. And yeah, thank you for being here together with us today, Steffo.
Thank you,
And
Alexandra. Lovely conversation.
yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I hope so did you, dear listener. And we'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Bye bye.